I speak the truth when I step in a room. Don't need an excuse. Know how I do, yeah. I be dropping gems, gem dropping gems, gem dropping. I speak the truth when I step in a room. Don't need an excuse. Know how I do, yeah. I be dropping gems, gem dropping gems, gem dropping with Caleb and Delon.
All right, welcome to the Gym Dropping Podcast. All right, where it's our opinion, our platform, but your problem. But you're going to get this truth. Today we got our special guest, Keyonna Renea, and I'll go ahead and let her tell us a little bit about what she does.
I'm a local creative entrepreneur. I'm also a photography educator, sometimes coach, and speaker.
Okay, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Boss lady.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boss lady.
And one of the reasons why we wanted to bring Keyonna on was because she has she's very articulate and she has a lot of information to offer. And so basically, Kansas City has got a bad rap for dating. Kansas City is voted one of the worst places to date and try to find, real love. And so we want to try to dig deep into that conversation and kind of see why that is. But for first question, we'll start off with, and we'll ask Keyonna, what are you typically looking for in a mate?
A man that is a provider in more than just a monetary sense of the word, but someone that can also protect and that's willing to grow with me is one of the biggest things,
Well, let me ask you this. When you say protect, what do you mean by protect? Is you just talking about physical, or what do you mean as far as protect?
Well, physically, yes, but emotionally also.
Okay.
Someone that I can go to and feel safe with my concerns and my feelings and things like that. That's a level of protection as well. So it's not just about the physical safety.
And I will add on to that, and before I let Keyonna finish. Protection is one of those things, I think as a young man, I'll speak for myself, and this is probably a dilemma for a lot of young men out there. We just think about the physical aspect of protecting, but we really don't take time to understand that it goes beyond just the physical aspect. It's protecting the emotions of the woman, protecting her dignity, protecting her mental health, and all those different things go into being honest and integral to her. Not cheating, being faithful, being honest, all those different type of things protects her emotional stability. But I'll let you finish and tell us the other things.
I like how you just brought up, being transparent and all of those things. Like all of that goes into feeling safe in a relationship overall. That's something that I'm really looking forward to. Like, is my heart safe with you, my mind, but can I also trust you to be not just to tell the truth, but be totally transparent. And not have me digging for information and just, bringing it to the table as well. Someone that's generous and not only just with the things that they give but with how they allow me to love them and open themselves up.
So you like a vulnerable man?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So fellas, two things she's already pointed out there. All right. So have your stuff together, because with men, you cannot have a family, you cannot take care of a woman if you cannot provide. Not saying that you got to make six figures, not saying you got to make $1 million or anything like that, but you have to have the ability to be able to take care of the woman in the family that you seek. And also too, she's telling you right now, it's okay to be vulnerable. I know a lot of times as being men, it's hard for us to be vulnerable. It's hard for us to be vulnerable with our women. And so you're seeing it right here that ladies are saying it's okay to be vulnerable.
It took me a long time to say, like, I want a husband. But that's exactly what it is that I want, but also a partner, like a partner in life. I want to be able to be his biggest fan as much as he is a fan of me. Like, I want to be able to look up to him and trust his direction, but also, be in a partnership, with each other. There's a bunch of things that I can say, but at the heart of who the person is, I want them to be whole. by themselves. And I would like to be a complement to whatever it is that they have going on, because you kind of called me a boss lady before. Like, it's really easy to wear the pants in a relationship, so to speak. Like, I can definitely step up in that role, but when I'm at home and when I'm loving someone, I don't want to. Like, I want to be able to give myself fully as a feminine essence human being, and be able to surrender and to trust leadership, but also be there, right there with you when and if you ever need me, for guidance and for fun and for, like all of the things. I want to be able to do life and everything that comes with it with my person.
Now, I do have a question even for you, Delon, as we talk about being vulnerable. Of course, a lot of people always say, well, a man being vulnerable is pretty much a secret to him because a woman will use that against him in an argument. How have you had that experience to where you felt like you could trust somebody and then next thing you know, they use it to hurt you?
Man, I'm sure we all have in some aspects of my life. I can't necessarily think of one particular instance, but it's all an investment. You got to think that relationships, man, there's going to be some casualties, and meaning that it's going to be some losses. So you're going to be taken advantage of at some point in time, knowingly or unknowingly, and I don't think it's anybody's intention most of the time to take advantage, but we may end up doing so without knowing it. But yeah, I think, like Keyonna said, it benefits you more to be able to be vulnerable, because I think that shows good leadership. Because eventually you're going to want her to be vulnerable at some point, but you have to lead and show her what that looks like. You know what I mean? In order for her to open up and be vulnerable with you.
But how does that? That's a great answer. But how does it affect a man? I'm saying.
Okay.
So pretty much, if you're invested in a woman, not even gonna say invested, but y'all are on going up terms, and you tell her some of your darkest, vulnerable moments in life, and y'all get into that one argument where it's so bad that you're not gonna break up, but it gets brung up like, this is why you are because of.
That actually happens?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Well,
and that's why how I feel, of course it hasn't happened to me, but I believe a lot of men feel like that they can't trust, because it's like, I've had friends that had that happen, and then next thing you know, it's spread it around, to where it breaks up a whole relationship. A whole relationship, like you trusted this person with your all, your heart, your feelings, and only for you to tell me that, say you didn't have a father in your life, and you told her how that affected you, and she turns around and tell you, this is why you're not this, because you didn't have this, and you da-da-da-da-da-da, and that childhood feeling comes back of being lonely and not having that, and you're feeling like, I could trust you with this info. It's just like a key to a dark room, and she's the only person to have it, and she opened that key, and it allows her to get all those feelings back out. How do you turn around and trust that person again in a relationship?
I'll say this, and I'll let Keyonna respond after this. I will say this, if you're going to be a man and you're trying to lead, how you answer that question is very, very important, because you're going to set the tone of whether that's going to be an argument or that's going to be a growing moment. Because you can either say, you know what, you're right, babe. That is probably the reason why I'm acting like that right now. However, XYZ. But if you return in anger, if you return in fire, you're going to get fire. And then that's going to go down the road that you probably don't want it to go through. And that a lot of times, being a leader, men think, okay, I get the last decision, I get the last word. No, man, sometimes it's about leading by action. You know what I'm saying? In your arguments, how you want this tempo to go. You check the temperature. So you come with fire, best believe that you're going to get fire in return. So how you answer that question, how it's delivered, because now she's, out of anger or whatever, frustration or whatever, she throws that in your face. You have to be the calm one to be able to turn that back around, because you can take it. You should be able to take it. Well, not all of us, but I would say this. Maybe you're not. Maybe
you're
not.
Basically, say if your feelings was all in that bottle and she let it out, you're basically have the opportunity to cap that back off and never let anybody else know and throw that whole relationship
You
away.
know what? Most of us are not able, and me, myself included, but that's something we have to work on in order to be able to handle that tempo and that temperature in those moments. I would say that.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that.
First of all, let me just say, it makes me profoundly sad to know that there are people, men or women, out there doing something like that. That isn't the right thing to do, like on so many levels. As much as for women that we want to feel protected in our relationships in all the ways that I just explained, so do our men, like our boyfriends and our husbands. So we have to treat them accordingly. So that's first and foremost.
Okay.
Secondly, you mentioned something before about setting the pace. I truly believe that men set the tone in a relationship, but I believe that women, we pace things, and that includes the way that we speak to each other and the things that we weaponize or not. Like, all of our conversations are sacred. The things that we learn about each other are sacred. So it just really saddens me that that's something that I keep hearing that over and over, that people have their feelings or the things that they've confided in get weaponized.
Let me ask you this. Is that one of the, because you said earlier in the segment that you were hesitant to be able to say that you want a husband. Is the fear of being vulnerable, was that part of the reason why you, in the beginning, you may not have wanted to claim and say that I wanted a husband?
No, it was more so that, honestly, that just really wasn't in my vocabulary before.
Okay.
Like, I come from a family where there's not a lot of marriage, and I had to learn being able to speak the things that I want, to be able to say, this is what I want, instead of just saying, I want a relationship, being very intentional about the words that I use. I want a husband, not just a relationship, not just a boyfriend. So that was more so just like a moment of me practicing my growth and like saying husband. Yeah.
Makes sense. Well, let's see this. Okay, so for those of you wondering, is there a benefit to dating? And if there are benefits, what might they be? That for on both sides of the table, what's the benefits of a man dating a woman and vice versa, a woman dating a man? What do both parties want to get out of the situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely depends on the person. For me right now, so I'm almost 40, there are so many things that I find valuable.
I know.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
You lie.
How old did you think I was?
I did not think you, I thought we was probably 31, 32.
No, I'm 39.
Okay.
But thank you, though.
My bad. I had to say.
I just totally forgot what I was going to say.
My bad. I had to say it like, no.
Benefits to dating.
Yeah. For me, I'm definitely a relationship type of woman, so there are a ton of benefits to being partnered. For me, I need companionship, and I love companionship. That's first and foremost. But the older I get and learning more about myself, all I want to do is give. And so for me, partnership is a chance for me to, give my heart. I can share my wisdom. I can help build. But then there's also the things that I talked about before, for me, really leaning into my feminism, I get all the things that my feminism isn't really made to do. All of the protection and provision and all those things, like I thrive from that and I grow from that and I amplify things in my space from that. But I believe that I'm essentially not made to do that primarily all the time. So being able to have a yin to my yang is only going to make me better as a woman. It's only going to make me better as a partner, and I'm only going to amplify the person that I'm with. And that gives me joy just thinking about how I can watch him be the greatest. I was about to curse, but be the greatest man that he can be. I was going to say be the greatest motherfucker that he can be, because I poured into him only the way that I can.
Well said.
So
sign me up. If those are the benefits, sign me up.
So what is yours? I mean, what is your benefit? Like, what do you feel you bring? And I'll switch it up. What do you feel that you bring to the table as a man?
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm curious. I want to hear from both of y'all.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, man, I mean, like she said before, you got to have your stuff together, financially gonna be set. I don't owe nobody anything. I make, twice as much as probably the average earner. But more importantly, besides when you get past that, because I think once you have to have that stuff in order before you can say, okay, I'm ready to take a wife, right? If I'm going to go and ask a father for his daughter's hand in marriage, I can't be trying to escort her into a shack, or he gonna turn her over to me and her life be miserable and we borrowing gas money and can't keep the lights on. Like, who wants to turn their daughter over to that, right? So first and foremost, let's get that out the way. Okay, boom, she's going into good hands. She's gonna be taken care of in regards to that aspect. Now it's integrity, right? The protection, protecting her emotions, his feelings, being honest, transparent, all those different type of things. And a good communicator and a good leader, someone who understands what actual leadership is. It's not just about having the last word, it's about leading the tone in arguments, et cetera, and all those different types of things, and being patient, So those are the things, and being willing to sacrifice. I really truly believe if you're not ready to sacrifice, and I'm just saying from my standpoint, I'm ready to sacrifice, you got to be willing to give up something. Somebody's going to lose something on both sides in order for both parties to be comfortable. I can't watch what I want to watch on the TV all the time. Sometimes I have to watch what you want to watch, in whatever that aspect may be. So it's got to be some compromise. It's got to be some sacrifice. And, if you're not ready to do those things, you're not ready to be in a relationship, in my opinion,
Well, I will tell you what I lack. And I'm married. I've been married going on 11 years. A couple of things that I lack. I fall short of communication. I fall short of time. I fall short of sometimes being the leader that I want to be because I'm so hard on myself. And these are the things not necessarily that I'm just trash at. It's things that I acknowledge that I need to get better at. When my wife tells me, honey, hey, can I get a little more time? I know that I lack at that. If she has to tell me that, I lack at that, right? But the things that I am good at is being a father, being a husband, being a protector of her feelings, knowing not when to cross these lines. I know what hurts my wife. I would never do anything to hurt you on purpose. It's a couple of other things where I just want to go back as far as that I lack. But other than that, as far as I'm a great provider, my wife know that it's pretty much 70-30 in the household. And the only reason it's really like that is because I want my wife to feel like I'm contributing to bills too. Mm-hmm. If I could do it all by myself, trust me, I would. I love her that much that she wouldn't have to touch a thing because my wife is a great mother. Yeah. She's a great wife. She's a great submissive wife. She's everything. So when I talk about me and what I bring, I'm telling you what we bring now as one. Mm-hmm. So everything that I lacked, she kind of picked me up and built me up from there. You know what I mean? So it's a partnership, and I appreciate her for that. So, and I somewhat agree with you where you said you gotta have your stuff together. Mm-hmm. Well, I was 19. My wife moved to Atlanta with me. This is how much she loved me, and this is how I realized she was my wife. She moved to Atlanta with me, with my mom. We didn't have anything. We moved back, and I realized this woman stuck with me, not even being married through thick and thin. I was broke. Yeah. I didn't have anything. All I know is I wanted her to be my wife and somebody that I could be with for the rest of my life. So I'm not going to say I had it all together, but this is 11 years later. So I can't definitively say you got to have everything together because none of us are perfect. If we was, we'd be Jesus. Okay. I'm just being honest. But in a sense, you have to acknowledge, though, where you lack, does that person pick you up? And if that person picks you up there, that together makes a whole, right? So that alone, if you feel like, okay, well, I don't have money at this time and she do, or whatever the case may be, I just feel like coming together makes it whole. But I'm gonna get back on topic and let you.
No, well,
let you
brother,
have
I
that.
think no, you were on topic because so you just gave all the benefits to having a relationship, having a partnership, having a marriage. You know, those are all the benefits. And if you can find that happiness early, it benefits you later on, 11, 12 years later in life. You know, so there's some benefits. But one thing I heard you say, and I just continue to hear you say in so many words, is that you really enjoy and understand the power in your femininity. For whatever reason, I see so many women trying to remove themselves out from under femininity as if it has no power, right? And so women, what I'm starting to see, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, they want the same masculine traits as a man, whereas so for example, you have a lion and a gazelle, right? What's the difference between a lion and a gazelle? Their physical makeup, right? One's more physically imposing than the other. However, we know the lion is the king of the jungle. However, the benefits to having that gazelle around is the fact that they eat vegetation, right? And they keep the vegetation down if the vegetation overgrows, it clogs up the rivers, the valleys, the lakes, and then guess what? That compromises the human habitat, right? Because now we're flooding and we can't get around where we need to in our habitat, right? So there's a benefit in being a gazelle. Doesn't mean that because you are a physically less dominant vessel, that your role to the ecosystem isn't as important, right? So women, I'm just saying, embrace your femininity. You know what I mean? Embrace being a woman, embrace being that. And if you do find someone that you can trust and reside in your femininity or whatnot, there's power in it.
So I think it's powerful that you said that more women, we need to hear that it's safe to do that, but we also need functionally to really feel that and see that in real time. Okay. But I love that you said that. So the world, honestly, it's not made up for us to be soft, and it's not made up for us to really be truly steeped in our feminism. So like, it has taken me years, like over a decade, to reach the groundedness that I am still learning to lean into when I speak about like me being a feminine essence being. Like when I was in my 20s, like I was still very feminine, but I was so much in my masculine energy. And some of it was out of necessity. Some of it was taught to me because all of the women that I grew up watching, they were all boss women. They all did everything. There were no men around. And so like I watched my mother come from being a teenage mom, living over on 12th Street in Parker Square. Yeah. So to having me to making six figures, I got to watch her entire journey of how that came to be. And that came with a lot of sacrifice, doing it by yourself. And so I mimicked that growing up. And it took me having to realize like, oh, like I don't really like how I'm being in relationships. I don't really like how I feel when I speak to men, or I don't really like how my posture changes when certain conversations coming up. It took so much awareness for me to be like, well, that doesn't feel good. Well, what does feel good? So like, it's a huge journey and undertaking because nobody teaches us how to be feminine. Nobody teaches us that it's safe. The world awards us for being masculine and then hits us over the head and then tells us, well, you're not being
Jim.
Right. Jim.
You dropping Jim.
You're not being woman enough. You're not being soft enough. Her survival was based on her being in her masculine. So it's not all of our fault. And there's just a lot to it.
No, I completely agree. I mean, you turn on the TV and these reality shows, and you see these young ladies fighting each other, being in their masculine energy. Yeah, it's incentivized. Yeah. You get fame, luxury, a lifestyle. You go on tour, and you get money, and you're chasing the bag, and all this other stuff. So so being feminine is not. It was a post on Facebook the other day, and this young lady, she said, the strong women intimidate men. And I was like, you know what? It's a good question. You know what? Yeah, it does. And the only reason why it is because strong is normally used in the aspect of combativeness, you know what I'm saying, holding my position, uncooperative, right? You know, that's kind of how that word represents that. And so for you, I heard you say this, which I'm gonna use that, if I may, the yin and yang. Like, why do I want to have two strong vessels, right? I want somebody who can complement my yin to my yang, right? And I think that was so beautifully said how you said that, because that's how I think it's meant to be, you know, because why would I go get 2-star running backs when I need a quarterback? When I need somebody who can orchestrate and pass the ball, I got somebody who can run the ball, right? And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
now I will say, now that we're in this space, we're speaking about this topic. How do you separate? What's the word that you was using? I can't say. Femininity. How do you separate? If we take 2 minutes and just say, how do you separate yours from the world's of what you see on TV? The I ain't gonna say no names. The hip hop artists. How do you separate yourself to let a man know that I'm not them, but this is me?
it's being redefined, man. Go ahead. Please touch on that.
So I love that you use the word redefine. I feel like we're at a precipice in society where a lot of us are waking up to a lot of things, and we're realizing that like what we've been doing for the last few decades isn't really working. And so there's a lot of us returning back to some more traditional things like myself. But then since we are a new generation, we're redefining what that means for us in every level. So a lot of this comes with a lot of self-awareness. Like I just said, me sitting back and being like, okay, well, I don't like how I do these things. And then asking myself, well, what is it that I like? And then putting it in practice. Because it's one thing to like intellectualize what you will or won't do or will or won't say. But then when you get triggered, you know, that old thing kind of comes out. So, you know, and we're all human. So it's like, you know, every time an opportunity comes up, you get to play in some of that energy. And then really, you know, it's about having a safe place, even if it's just like friends or like family members, to be able to do that with. But yeah, just redefining every single way. Like when I walk in here, I get to decide exactly how I want to hold my body, exactly how I want to hug and greet both of you. When I introduce myself on the podcast, how I want to say it, like the tone of my voice, like how I'm doing that, like all of this is a decision that I'm making because it feels good to me and because it allows me to really just display who I am, not just a person, but as a woman and as a Black woman. So some might think that it's kind of scary to be like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. I use the word play intentionally. Like a lot of life is a game. We get told that we have to be very serious, and this is one of the things that is serious, but we get to just kind of try stuff on and see what happens. It's almost like going to the store and like trying on a new outfit.
All right, so to bring it back around to the original topic at hand, you know, some of the problems and issues with dating in Kansas City, some of the things we pointed out, it sounds like communication is a flaw in the process. It sounds like, you know, having yourself financially stable. Women want to feel safe. Maybe if you're having trouble with dating, you know, that's one of the things you need to lead with. You need to figure out how you can make that woman feel safe in your presence, show a little vulnerability. And now that you understand what it means to lead in its totality, maybe, you know, men can become better leaders, so that way that there are better men to pick from here in Kansas City as well. And we also talked about being the yin to the yang. Sounds like there's a little bit more of wanting a softer woman, perhaps, or I would say this, a more feminine woman who resides in her femininity, who understands the power of her femininity, or whatnot, and being able to complement the yin to the yang. Is there anything I might have kind of left out? We kind of touched base on or whatnot. And so one of the controversial topics that have been scathing the airways here recently is showing skin. You know, we're in the era of showing skin, and that seems to be the end thing now, or whatnot. I'm okay with showing some skin to a certain extent. And so we'll just kind of get some ideas as of to, where this new phenomenon has come from and what's the opinion about it. And so I know you're the art guru, so I'm interested to hear your opinion in regards to it's like, so if you guys have been under a rock recently, Keke Palmer was recently in a situation where she was on stage with Usher and she had a very revealing dress on. I think Janelle Monáe, raised her shirt up and, showed, part of her breast, et cetera, et cetera. And so all of these new musical artists in the videos and things exposing themselves, et cetera. But this is the era in which we're in. So is showing skin good or not? And why?
I think it's nuanced. I'll say first that for centuries, women were controlled. The way that we present ourselves has always been dictated by men. And so I think with, our generation and the younger generations, like they're just fed up. Like we watched our mothers and our grandmothers and our great grandmothers basically being told what to do, what to wear. We told what's ladylike or whatever. So you used the word redefine earlier, like we're all redefining what our expression is, and to be, really in tune with your femininity means being able to freely play in that. So I'll say that first and foremost. So I have a different outtake on it because I am a boudoir photographer. So what I do is help lead and guide women into their sensuality. Like I do that for a living. And so a lot of times our sensuality is demonized, and it's, we're constantly being told that it's not safe or that it's not the right thing to do, which is the total opposite of that. So to have a very feminine woman means that she is very in tune with her sensuality. Like you can't have one without the other. So, but when it comes to displaying it or not, and if we're talking about in a relationship, you have to decide together if that's what you want to do, is decide together what's important to you, where your boundaries are with that. If you were to ask me 10 years ago, as free as I am, because I'm very free with my body and very in tune with my sensuality, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, well, I want you to cover up just because I said so, I'd be like, fuck you. No. Like, I don't want to be controlled like that. But now, one, I wouldn't be in a relationship with someone that would talk to me that way and tell me that. But two, I would have already decided before being in a partnership that I'm going to be open to listening to his concerns. I have decisions over my body first and foremost, but I'm definitely going to take into consideration how that makes him feel. And because I'm at the age that I'm at now, maybe I don't want to show myself publicly the way that I would 10, 15 years ago. Like there's a different sacredness to myself now. And I only want to give that to my person. And some of it, because of my job, I do freely. So they do have to understand that because I'm a teacher in that space. So it's not because I want to be flamboyant. It's not because I'm looking for attention. I don't give a fuck who's in my DMs or who's like looking at, I'm teaching other women how to free themselves. And so there's for me, there's a balance there.
So I'm hearing you say that there's a sense of freedom that comes with embracing your sexuality and being comfortable with sharing that beauty with the world. Okay. Did you want to jump in on? Because I got something if you don't.
So how I looked at it was, say, are we speaking on like me and my wife go out, or me and my partner go out, or if she goes out by herself and she's showing skin? Are we saying if she go out showing skin on her own, or are we talking about just a single lady showing skin?
Well, according to what, and if I don't want to misquote you, so from Keonna's perspective, I think she was saying if she was in a relationship, she would take into consideration and we would decide together how that's gonna be presented. You know what I mean? And so I think she's saying the same thing here. So if that's you and your wife, y'all to have a conversation on how she's going to display her beauty. Am I saying that
Yeah, I think so.
accurately to a degree?
When it comes to if I'm with my wife and we go out on a date and she shows some skin that I'm with her, of course, we're together. I can, as a masculine man, my job is to protect you. So there will be, if I'm not there, no offense, like there will be weirdos that look at you that probably, how can I say it, like thrive on you or prey on you because of the things that you wear. As men, we like the chase. We like to hunt. So and I'm not going to say it's the woman's fault that she picked what she wear, that it's a man's nature to go after that. You know what I mean? But in the same sense, how can we say as a lady, if you go out the house, let's just say she has on a tank top, no bra or something. I don't know. Let's just say that. Does a woman know that she's going to get looks, or does she know that a man will be like, I want to talk to her because she's displaying herself like that? Or is it a man's fault for pursuing a woman that's displaying herself like that? Now, I'm not saying she's wrong. She can go out however she wants, but it is in a man's nature, in a man's DNA to chase down that's something that you're displaying. It's just like when you talk about lions, you know what I'm saying, or birds. These birds will, let's just take a bird. They will flop up their feathers to let the people know, hey, I want to be chased. I'm ready. So that's in our nature to fight for that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying it's a right or wrong thing. I'm just saying as far as a man, is he wrong for doing that? No, I'm not saying the dude go out and you just harass her or anything like that. But I just feel it is in a man's DNA to want to, right. But it is a man's DNA. If he was to see a woman like that, I'm not going to say it's her fault, but it is for him to hunt. You know what I'm saying? Because you're kind of putting it out there. Now, I'm going to say this. A man can see you regardless of if you got on clothes or not.
Yeah, I was about to say.
He can see you regardless.
I can wear a burlap sack and it's the same thing.
He can see you. You can have on joggers. You can have on leggings. He's going to see you regardless. But if you're wearing a tank top with no bra, you just giving it to me HD. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not going to say it as like you're wrong. I'm just saying that's how a man does see it.
Well, I will add on to that a little bit and say, because that's kind of one of the directions I was going. So I think where the conflict comes in at is I think that men are looking at it as a form of protection, and I think it comes off as a form of control. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And so I think it's about how the man is delivering it to the woman. So, for example, if I'm a jerk, right? If I'm a machismo, if I'm a jerk, if I'm a guy who likes to manipulate women, that's really what I want to see. You know, I want to see your entire body. I want to objectify you. I want you to be comfortable with being promiscuous and giving as much sex and giving me as much access to sex as I would want to, because I'm not here to add to anything. I'm here to take away everything. You know, right? So that in a sense, I think that's what Caleb is saying, and I think that's where where the sense of protection wants to come from, and it can get to that point to where it can be controlling at times. But where the protection is that we're trying to draw that firm line in between those guys that mean you no harm. And so I would say if you're in the dating world, right, and you are a woman who's saying, okay, I want to ward off all the jerks, you know, I want to keep out. In my opinion, that's the quickest way to invite all the jerks. Because I think that all the good guys, for example, and this is just my assumption, and I don't have any statistics to back this up, but in my experience in life, I haven't seen very many men lining up to make wives out of women who put their beauty on display for everyone. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and I would, and that's why I said it from my experience. So I would be surprised or whatnot. But like I said, if I'm a jerk, if I'm wanting to take full advantage of you, your access to your body is exactly what I'm looking for.
So the first thing I'll say is showing skin is glorified these days, and it's incentivized. You used that word earlier. So especially for like some of the younger generations, they're growing up seeing that that's how I get attention, that's how I get a man, that's how I get money, blah blah blah. So they're thinking all roads need to lead to this if they're completely unguided. But as far as attention goes, a woman literally can wear anything and get the same attention from a certain type of man. It really doesn't matter. He will hunt. So I think regardless of what a woman is wearing, it is not an invitation for anything. She is just simply wanting to be herself. And you mentioned going out with like without a bra on or whatever. I did that like a couple of weeks ago. Not think anything of it. I actually was running late to a chiropractic appointment and forgot to put on my bra. And, nobody, batted an eyelash, but there was one particular man that I ran into somewhere and I was just like, oh, like I could feel, the energy shift in the room. There were other men in the room, but they were very respectful. Like nobody even did anything, but I could feel the energy of this one man and I just exit accordingly. Not all the times is it going to be that easy, but that is a him problem and not a me problem. Because I didn't do that for him. I didn't do that for anybody else. Hell, I didn't even really do it for me. Sometimes I might, but like it genuinely spoke more about him and about his predatory nature than it could have ever done for me or any other woman.
Okay. So that's what I want to ask though, because the question a little threw me off. Would that change if you was in a relationship or married? Because I was speaking on single. So I wanted to ask, would that change if you were single or married? Well, if you were married.
So this one is interesting. If I'm using the same example, my husband's going to know that that's me. Like sometimes I'm absent-minded and I might willingly, like knowingly, intentionally go without a bra or not. And that's something we can discuss, but that's who I am right now without him. And that's not learning about my personality, I think is very important because you can't just be like, okay, well, a woman that does this means this. For me, that's something that's very different. So I would hope that I would be more cognizant if I, was married and not be absent-minded. But the very single me doesn't really think anything of it because I've been doing it like literally since I was a teenager. Right.
Okay. And we spoke on men being masculine as far as in a relationship as a husband. And how I would speak to that is one of our parts as being a husband is to protect you. Yeah. So if I know this is how men thinks and it could cause harm to you, regardless of if it's your fault or not, my job is to protect you from other predators. So if I was to say, hey, honey, it's a lot of attention on you. You already know you have a body and you're showing a little bit too much for me not to be there. Now, I'm not saying I'm a person that's going to be like controlling you. I'm just recommending to you, hey, I don't think this is appropriate for you to wear by yourself. You know what I'm saying? And because at a rate out here, women are getting snatched up. And I think women do think that is some type of control, but you would not disagree with your father if he told you that. No. I'm just a man that's trying to fill his shoes to protect you from getting.
Let's just keep it a buck. Mm-hmm. So us as men, we have egos, mm-hmm. right? So a lot of this leans in on the male ego. Right? Like, okay, man, I don't want my woman revealing herself out there to everybody else. And so my question is, because let's just be honest. I mean, we, as men, part of our makeup is we have these egos. So my question is to any woman, and not necessarily Keyonna, and you can feel free to answer this, but just to all women. So what is my incentive? If everything that you have is shared with the world, what is my incentive to call you my own?
My question would be, why does my body equal everything that I have?
No. Well, so I'm just saying in today's era, so when I say everything that you have, I'm in regards to everything is shared on social media, you know, the breastfeeding, you know, you're showing your behind, you know, you're showing your livelihood, this, that, and the third. And so everything is shared with the world, right? You're giving a little piece of everything to the world. So what incentive do I have to say, okay, she's mine. I'm gonna take her for my wife. I'm gonna take her as mine, right? You know, because at the end of the day, right, you know, if to some degree, my ego has to be stroked to some degree, because I have the makeup of a man, right? I like to feel good that my woman is, you know, displaying that only for me, right? And that strokes my ego to some degree to motivate me to continue to be that masculine figure that you want me to be in your life. So, you know, so in today's era, we're sharing everything, and then now there's one more thing on the table that I have to be comfortable with my woman sharing with the rest of the world. So, you know, what's my incentive to say, okay, she's mine because she belongs to the world.
You know, and that's a great point, because so how I look at it as, it's just like when we were kids. When you find something that you want on your own, you hold it tight. It's just like taking your kid's favorite toy. Now, I'm not calling a woman a kid, but I'm just saying your favorite bear, and you're like, no, you can't have it. That's how I look at my wife. You can't have what I have that's private to me, that is something that I find, you know what I'm saying, as far as your body, like that is a work of art.
She said
now I'm not, yeah, it's very, but I'm not saying that's all that you have to offer.
Right.
But as a man, that's like, I don't want nobody else seeing that. Just like I would never disrespect you and go out here and show with gray sweatpants, and you told me not to wear freaking gray sweatpants, because it happens to women too. One of the first things they look at when you go to the gym, they looking down. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you know, you have had, or women have walked up to you and the first thing they do is look down. So if my wife tells me, Caleb, you can't go to the gym with those pants,
cool with
I'm not gonna argue with that.
You changing?
I'm changing. I'm changing because you want to know why? Because it caused a conflict where she doesn't feel protected anymore, because you're letting yourself out there to the streets. You know what you got and you're not supposed to be wearing, but it attracts women. So it goes hand in hand.
So what you're saying is that you want some of the intimacies of your relationship to be reserved for the relationship.
Man, because look, when I look at my wife's body, I don't want, when I'm married, like that's me. And when she look at me, that's hers. You know what I'm saying? So when I hold you like that, I'm being selfish at that moment. Like, this is me. And she's saying, this is me. So it's not me saying you can't wear this. It's just like, honey, you're I'm not going to say you're better than that or anything. I'm just saying, like, we're married. How you walk out the house reflects this relationship.
So let me ask you this. Is it okay for a man to want to be selfish with someone he calls his own? Is that okay, or is that come off a little too much?
I think to a degree, there's a fine line to possessiveness that I hear, you know, kind of being bounced back and forth. But I understand it. I don't understand it because I'm not a man, but I understand because I've been around enough to to witness and know.
Understand.
Never heard that.
I'm just saying, I'm not a man, so I can't feel what you feel, but I get it, and I hear the undertone in what's being said. But there's a fine line of possession. So, and that is an inner game inside each man.
Because I think, like, the way I was raised, you know what I mean? Like, my mother didn't dress like that. I remember what my mother used to tell my sister how to dress, et cetera, et cetera. And the women that I grew up around, they didn't dress like that. So culturally, that's how I was raised. So I was like, man, am I really intimidated or afraid? Like, what am I afraid of? Like, I feel like she's coming back home to me. I know she's my wife. I'm not really afraid of any other man taking her, because I would tell my daughter, if my daughter was up, I would say, no, baby girl, don't dress like that. No, you know, so is it really a fear or is it really intimidated or something? I'm like, no, you know what? This is cultural.
I love that you just said that, because especially with the Black community, that's exactly what it is. We watched our mothers and grandmothers do certain things, but as we keep saying, we're redefining. So why is that not up for discussion when we're redefining things? It's one thing to say that you're making your family your own, you're making your relationship your own, but you want everything done like your mama and them? Why? But it doesn't work both ways. You have to decide if you're going to grow with this person and actually redefine and reimagine something that maybe you haven't seen before. And that can be intimidating and scary in its own right. Yeah. But you have to be intentional about that. You can't have that both ways. So I'm really, really glad that you brought that up, because as Black people, we always want to like assimilate back to the things that we've seen and then complain about things being the same or whatever. Like, choose a fucking lane.
Good point. Well, you know what? I'll expand on something I think we talked about a little bit in here, that protection comes in different forms, just like the financial stability and all those different things come in different forms. And one of the things that I really want to express is that because I really, really, really dig deep into the thought process of this whole particular subject. And I think when these discussions are being had, they're not really thinking about the entire impact that it may have on individuals. So for example, let's say, for instance, I say, you know what, I'm gonna be cool with this modern day, you know, revealing thing as far as skin, and this is my wife, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dang, I got a kid. You know, I got a 13, 14-year-old son. And now my son, so now this is the form of protection. So I got to protect my family. Now there's pictures of his mother circulating the locker room at my son's middle school or high school or whatever the case may be. And now my son is dealing with the scrutiny behind, you know, pictures of his mother going around and circulating, and, you know, he's having to fight and get into conflicts with his friends and stuff like that. And so I say, listen, you're beautiful, do whatever you want with your body, but understand that if you are attached to people, you have children, if you have a husband, and how that ripple effect may impact those around you. You know, hey, be beautiful, be free, enjoy your femininity. However, just understand that everybody hasn't come to that forward way of thinking, and the opposition on that other side is still going to attack your child. They're still going to attack your family, you know, your dignity as a woman, because I think they even challenged Keke Palmer's motherhood. You know, the opposition challenged her motherhood. You know, some people did, right? And so she's still having to deal with that scrutiny, that their entire family, you know, just think about all the drama and impact that came in regards to that, you know, with her being as free. So that's a decision to say, okay, you know what? I'm ready for the decision that's coming down the pipe in regards to that. And the last thing I say, that, because since we're on that topic, or whatnot, is that, you know, one of the things that I think that women have to be careful of and just understand. And so I will never tell a woman exactly what to do. And I'll never tell my daughter that either. I will say, baby girl, listen, if she comes to me and she says, I want to be a stripper, I think this is a very artistic form of expression, and this is what I want to do with my life. I say, baby girl, look, you can do that. However, understand what's waiting for you at the end of that road. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of objectivity. There's a lot of men that don't mean you any harm. They're going to objectify you. And you can look on TV right now, or you can go down to the strip, and you can see all of these retired prostitutes and strippers, and you can see the pain and the hurt, and they'll tell you to your face how they would have chose a different lifestyle for themselves, and they've been aged by 20 years, some of them in their 30s, and they look 40 and 50 years old because of drugs and alcohol, and that pain, you know, has, you know, and all that trauma, you know, has taken over their life. So yes, baby girl, you can go down that path, but you have no idea, and you don't. And the other thing you don't realize is all of the trauma and how long it's going to take to mentally recover from all the trauma down that path, you know. So when you're out here and you're and all that scrutiny and you're being objectified and being treated a different way by society, because everybody does not see it as art like you, baby girl. They just don't. You know what I'm saying? And you might not be able to convince everybody in a short amount of time that you want to. So you can make your stance on it, but it's a rigid, trauma-filled path at the end of that path if you decide to go down there.
It would be a great education.
And that's definitely great that you said that most people don't. I'm a photographer. I do look at it the same way you do, but out of respect for my wife, it's just like, I don't know if that's something I would want to, do just to make, I want her to still feel comfortable in it. So if it's something that she disagrees with, we're like, because she don't understand it like us. But at the same sense, I had to protect that for her. So it's like, I just keep doing what I'm doing. But just like you said, we have to pretty much be a little bit unselfish to basically say, I can't do it. You have to. You know what I'm saying? Especially in marriage, to where it's like, dang, is this selfish or unselfish? But you have to take that back seat sometime and just chop that up and chew it as a loss. But it's a great point where you said, I guess it'd be a good learning point. So what would you say to the women out there as far as expressing what you teach in your class, and just if you could take just a time to say, what would you say to them to be?
To get curious about yourself and become a student of yourself, be patient with yourself, play. I used that word a lot earlier. And to really be in tune with and learn what your yes, no, and maybes are. And that's a whole different another topic, because you can use that in different areas of your life. But if you have the question or not of whether you are comfortable where you are, that means that you're not. So taking the step to start making different decisions is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. You got to trust that instinct within yourself.
I couldn't agree more. I think that was beautiful. Self-awareness is a very important thing. Beautiful.
So this is the point of the show where they don't know, but we're going to be going red. This is pretty much our closing of the show. We're going to be going red. So it's one question that I will ask two of, you single right? Delon and Keyonna, a red question. So we finna go red and we'll be right back. All right, now, so we're here, we're about to go red. So this is the point where we ask just one question, and it's pretty simple. It's not too red, but it's red. So what is one thing, and I'll start off with you, Delon, that you felt in your last relationship you lacked and needed to work on?
Oh, man. I think I could always use a little more patience. Patience is valuable. I guess I'm gonna go with patience, man. I think at the end of the day, I would have liked to been a little bit more patient in a few scenarios that I can just kind of think of in my head. And had I been a little bit more patient, maybe it might have been a different, outcome or whatnot. But because we're human and we all feel like we got that cup, that runs, and so maybe I got to get a bigger cup. You know what I mean? So.
Okay. What about you, Miss?
Be more vocal and clear about what it is that I expect and that I want, instead of just magically thinking that somebody is going to know or understand because I'm a certain way or I don't look like this. Like, just speak up. Like, I didn't do that well.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That is huge, because we don't know sometimes. Like,
yeah.
Even if you put it in our face, we like, oh.
Yeah.
So and that's huge for you to say patience. And that's huge for both of y'all. I honestly, and I would say for me, nothing, because I've been married for the longest.
Well, I think you was vulnerable with us earlier in the show. I think you went red earlier.
Yes, you did.
For sure. I definitely went red earlier. I always like to acknowledge the things that I don't do good, something that I don't do well, before I acknowledge the things that I know, that I thrive in, because my goods do outweigh my bads. You know what I mean? So, and it's just a humble moment to name those lows before you go to your highs.
Absolutely.
So-
and that goes back to that self-awareness, brother. You know, that she was kind of talking about knowing yourself and knowing and being aware, because how can you work on your flaws if you don't know they exist?
Exactly. So what's one last thing you would like to tell the world about something that will make the next person get through their day? One quote.
One quote. I think I said it earlier. Just, you know, if everything that you have is shared with the world, what is my incentive to call you my own?
The way you phrase it is just interesting.
What about you?
One quote. I would say try to be as open as possible and to really allow yourself to be seen and to see others. We're so quick to judge and to be afraid and retreat. We're always like on the defense. Like we all have to soften up.
Yeah.
Like we're not gonna survive without each other, and we need each other, and that's why we keep hitting heads.
That's far. And mine would be to live. I know a lot of us, we have a lot of goals and we set expectations for 5 years down the road and we never get there. You know what I mean? Tomorrow is not promised, so live today. So that's pretty much it. We appreciate y'all watching. I just want to say thank you for coming. My brother, thank you, Delon. I feel like this will help a lot of people as far as different aspects and we got 3 different opinions up here. So it's definitely helpful, and I hope, you know, y'all can subscribe, like, comment, let us know what y'all think. And Delon gonna lead y'all with the slogan real quick.
All right, it's our platform, our opinion, but your problem, but you're gonna get this truth.
You gonna get this truth. We out.
We out.
All right.
I speak the truth when I step in a room. Don't need an excuse. Know how I do, yeah. I be dropping gems, dropping gems, dropping. I speak the truth when I step in a room. Don't need an excuse. Know how I do, yeah. I be dropping gems, dropping gems, dropping.